Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Now. Be sure to join us for our live draft coverage on our main Chat Sports channel. Just, 8 days away? I mean, the NFL draft is coming up very, very quickly, and we will have wall-to-wall every single pick coverage on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. The link is down below me right now. You can always just search above me for Chat Sports, and it'll pop right up. Over 240,000 subscribers, of course, more than that, watched the show last year when we did our live draft show, so be sure to go ahead and tune in for that one coming up here. Again, 8 days away. Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Before we go ahead and dive into today's show, I want to start with the breaking news following the Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman joint press conference about not naming Jalen Hurts the starting quarterback. I mean, this is some weird stuff that is now circulating on Twitter right now, and so, I have just a couple of minutes ago, I want to give you my thoughts on the whole Hurts is not quarterback one yet, even though we all kind of think he will be quarterback one. So if you did not see, Nick Sirianni, along with Howie Roseman and a couple other Eagle coaching, front office personnel people, had a joint press conference today. We really didn't expect them to have a joint press conference today, but they ended up having a joint press conference today. And someone, a member of the media, simply asked Nick Sirianni if he had named or would name Jalen Hurts the starting quarterback going into the offseason. And Nick Sirianni declined to name him the starting quarterback, which is okay, why? Kind of a head scratcher. He instead named an open quarterback competition. Hooray! Yes, more quarterback competition in Philadelphia. Goodness gracious. Now, to be fair, Sirianni did kind of go a step further and said there's open competition at every single position, which is what you want your coach to say. That way people come to training camp and work really hard. But in the end, to me, just kind of a dumb thing to say because we all know and understand what's going on here, right? Jalen Hurts will 100% be the starter in 2021. 100%. There is no scenario where Jalen Hurts is not the starting quarterback come week one of the NFL season, barring some sort of injury. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen, right? I know that people want to sit back now and go, maybe this means the Eagles are going to trade up for a quarterback, or maybe they'll draft a quarterback and pit him up against Jalen Hurts, and maybe a Kellen Mond in the third round could win the starting quarterback job. Stop. It's not going to happen. Everybody and their mother, including Nick Sirianni, knows and understands that Jalen Hurts will be the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a new head coach who's trying to establish his culture, and open competition is his way of doing it. Do I agree with open competition at every position? Technically, yes, but I also understand the National Football League, where we understand that Fletcher Cox and Darius Slay and the other stars, Brandon Brooks, are not going to lose their jobs in an open competition, right? So I get that you want to make Jalen Hurts compete for it, you want to make him work for it, but no one is buying the idea that there is an open competition at the quarterback spot. Joe Flacco is not going to win the starting quarterback job, so why even say it, right? I like Sirianni. I've always said I think that he was a good hire. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, head coaching job is difficult right now based on the Athletic article that came about a month ago. It's talking about how Howie Roseman is, making all these bad decisions, and he's fueled on by Jeffrey Lurie and blah, blah, blah. So I get that he might have had one hand tied behind his back, like it was reportedly said for Doug Peterson, but you don't need to come out and essentially lie, even though we're not accusing him of lying, but essentially be like, whoa, it's an open competition, when all of us sit back here and go okay, yes, we know it's an open competition, but Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter. So, take this all with a grain of salt. Sit back and rest assured that Philadelphia is not going to hopefully mess up the quarterback spot more than they have in the past couple of years. So, Jalen Hurts will be the starter week one. Regardless of what they do in the draft, they won't be trading up into the top 10 to take a quarterback to pit in competition against him. It's this Hurts team to lose, essentially, and he will be the starting quarterback until he proves that he is unable to, and I think everyone in Philadelphia, including myself, feel very confident in his overall abilities. I'll ask the question, even though I already know the answer here, right? Will Jalen Hurts start week one under center? Right? Just simple yes or no question. Will he start week one under center or will he not? Again, I would type Y down below for yes because I think I'm a logical person, as I hope most of you guys are. If you would say no, I would love for you to explain why, because again, they're not trading up for a quarterback inside the top 10. I feel very confident about that, and there's no way that a Kellen Mond third round draft would even be close to competing against Jalen Hurts, who has at least had more than a year now of actual NFL experience and 4 games underneath his belt, one of which he beat the number 1 defense in the New Orleans Saints. He's the starting quarterback. Type Y down below for yes if you go ahead and agree with me. All right, Eagle fans, today's kind of a different video because I wanted to take a look at the 3 most likely scenarios for Philadelphia at number 12 overall. Now, that includes drafting number 12 overall, trading up, and trading back down. As we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL draft, and we're 8 days away right now, which I've mentioned multiple times because, again, it's coming up very, very quickly, I've started to really dive into the likely scenarios for Philadelphia in round 1, and these are the most likely scenarios, and I narrowed it down to 3, right? Because technically, there are a billion scenarios, but the 3 most likely scenarios and the most likely pick picks, which we'll talk about here in just a second, are going to be here today in this video. Let's start, though, with, of course, the draft profile. Again, I want to remind everybody, April 29th, so literally 8 days from today, filming here on a Wednesday. Tomorrow will be exactly 1 week from night 1 of the NFL draft, where Philadelphia will have number 12 overall, and then behind it, 10 more picks, so 11 total. They have some of the most draft capital out of any team in the entire National Football League, and it's a good thing because, I mean, look, they got a lot of needs. Wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, defensive end, offensive line. Made the case they could use another running back, maybe, potentially a backup quarterback. Like, there are a lot of needs for this team overall, but as we mentioned, the good news is there are a lot of picks to be able to go ahead and make these moves. Now, I'll show you the draft picks on your screen. We talked about a lot of the spots where they're going to go ahead and make their selections. I do expect Philadelphia to trade both up and down this draft, maybe on day 1, maybe later on day 2 or day 3. But with all these picks that you're seeing rotating on your screen right now, Philadelphia has plenty of ammo to go ahead and make really any move they want. So if they have a player that they love, they can package the picks in round 2 and 3 and move back into the first round, or the same thing from 3 or 4, but back into the second round. A lot of ammunition is good news. But I do think, and the point of this video again, is back into round 1 and the 3 most likely scenarios for the Philadelphia Eagles with the number 12 overall pick. Now, before we go ahead and give you those 3 scenarios, answer this question down below. Do you want the Eagles to draft, or who do you want the Eagles to draft in round 1, right? Is there somebody in round 1 that you absolutely think is a can't-miss prospect? Who do you want them to take? Let me know down below right now. Okay, let's start with what I like to call the likely scenario, right? Out of the 3 scenarios, this to me is the most likely one, and it involves with Philadelphia basically staying put at number 12 and taking the best player available. And more on who the best player will be available in a second, but I think it's probably going to go ahead and be a cornerback, right? I think it's very safe to sit back here when we talk about the likely scenario, cornerback or wide receiver, and more specifically, whether it's, the number 3 cornerback in the draft or the number 3 wide receiver in the draft, because as we'll show you in a second here, a lot of the players that you would rather have would be gone, right? So take a look at this list, right? So in this scenario, and this is the most likely scenario, I'm assuming that Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Patrick Surtain, and Kyle Pitts are all gone, right? Because if any one of those 4 are there at 12, I think Philadelphia would just take him, right? If Smith falls to 12, boom, you take him. If Surtain is there at 12, boom, you would take him. But in this scenario, the likely scenario, I'm going to assume, because I think 90% of all other draft experts would agree, these guys are going to go ahead and be gone. So the likely scenario and the likely picks to be had at number 12 overall are twofold. One is a cornerback, and the first will be J.C. Horn. Now, Horn is not going to be the first cornerback taken in this draft. I think that's kind of unanimous among all draft experts. Surtain is a better overall prospect, and he will go more than likely first as the first cornerback off the board, but Horn will go second, right? So we are assuming that Surtain is gone, because you obviously take Surtain over J.C. Horn. If Horn is there at 12, I think Philadelphia is just going to sit back, pull the trigger, and add to what is in dire need in terms of the Eagles' cornerback depth chart, behind, of course, a guy like Darius Slay. Horn would make a ton of sense. So, obviously, Surtain gone, Horn there, easy pick. They go ahead and just roll with the cornerback at number 12 overall. Now, the other scenario here, the other likely pick during the likely scenario, is the wide receiver. Now, we, again, assume Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase are not here. You can throw Kyle Pitts in the mix as well. If all 3 of those players are not available at 12, which I don't think they will be, they could also take Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver out of Alabama. Much like J.C. Horn, he is considered the next best wide receiver, just like Horn is the next best cornerback behind the top 2 of Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith. Both Waddle and Horn, to me, would make an absolute ton of sense, because Philadelphia's 2 big needs are both wide receiver and cornerback. So as we sit back and start off in our likely scenarios in the first round, the ones that make the most sense and are most likely, again, are probably Waddle or J.C. Horn. Now, the point of both of these players is because right now in the NFC East, the NFC East has great wide receivers. So from a J.C. Horn perspective, you need somebody to go out there and be able to defend a Kenny Golladay, or be able to defend Amari Cooper, or be able to defend a Curtis Samuel. All these players now in the NFC East, the receivers are really, really good. And so adding a second cornerback would make a ton of sense for Philadelphia. Likewise for wide receiver, right? All of the teams have really good wide receivers, and Philadelphia's sitting here like, well, we have Jalen Reagor, and we have Travis Fulgham, and we have Greg Ward, but that is nowhere near as good of a wide receiver class as any of the other teams in their same division. So both of these picks to me are the most likely and the most logical. If I was going to put my money down on what Philadelphia would do if they stayed at 12, these 2 players would be it, and I would argue the vast majority of people would go ahead and agree with me. Now, if you want to get a little more nitty-gritty, let's ask you the question, right? Would you rather have Horn or Waddle? If it comes down to both being available at number 12, and there's no Smith or Chase or Surtain or Pitts, who would you rather have? Type W down below for Waddle, type H down below for Horn. I'm very curious if you guys want Horn or Waddle, and that's the question we're going to go ahead and propose to you right now. Okay, let's get into the other two scenarios, right? There are three scenarios that to me make the most sense. The next scenario is the trade-up scenario is what I'm calling it right now. There have been reports that Philadelphia has talked about moving back inside the top 10, which is a little strange that they would move out of the top 10 just to move back in. But as we'll show you in just a couple of minutes, it cost them less to move back in, and it got more whenever they went ahead and moved back, right? So the scenario here would be if one of the top wide receivers or Patrick Surtain were to fall past 6, 7, or 8, Philadelphia could move up to 8 or 9 and take the wide receiver of their dreams, aka Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. I do think that if one of them were to fall, which is a big if, because obviously the Bengals are going to be sitting there, the Dolphins are going to be sitting there, the Lions all probably want a wide receiver, so it's a big if, but if Smith or Chase were to fall, I think Philadelphia would go ahead and pull the trigger and move up in the draft. This trade-up scenario would probably look something like this, right? So here are the 4 picks, middle of the top 10, that would need to go down and could very easily go down for Philadelphia to move back in and take a guy like Devontae Smith, right? So the Falcons would go quarterback at Trey Lance. Obviously, the first 3 picks are all quarterback. We assume that. The Bengals would go something like Penei Sewell. The Dolphins would take Kyle Pitts. The Lions would take Jamar Chase. And then Philly, seeing Devontae Smith fall past 7, would go ahead and pull the trigger on a trade up to move up to number 8 with the Carolina Panthers, and in the end, go ahead and take Devontae Smith. Now, you're saying, Thomas, how much are we spending to move back into the top 10? We talked about this. It's not a lot, right? I mean, look at this. So, to move up to 8, which is 4 spots, the math works out here in terms of overall draft stock and draft capital. All you got to do is give up number 12 overall, so you swap first, and then give them number 70 overall, which is one of your 2 third-round draft picks, which, if you think about it, is not that bad, because they would still have number 2 this year. They would still have their third-round draft pick from the Carson Wentz trade. They would just give up their other third-round draft pick and number 12 overall. That would put them at number 8, and then they could go ahead and draft the wide receiver of their dreams, in my opinion, and that is Devontae Smith. Now, you could easily swap this for Jamar Chase, right? If the Dolphins wanted Smith and then Chase were to fall, then that's fine. You could go ahead and take Jamar Chase here, but this is the most likely, I would say, scenario for Philadelphia moving up. It's not for Pitts. It's not for a quarterback. Those are all ridiculous. It would be if one of the 2 wide receivers were to fall, and as I showed you during that quick little mock draft, there is a very real possibility that the Dolphins could go Kyle Pitts to get 2 of the tight end. The Lions could be in love with Jamar Chase, and then the Panthers, who've talked about trading back, could easily move back. Philadelphia comes up and ends up with Devontae Smith in the end. Let me ask you guys this. With the draft, again, 8 days away, what's your level of excitement right now for the NFL draft? I'm at like a 15, but I'll ask you guys on a scale from 1 to 10, right? 1 meaning you're not excited, which is really strange. Like, why are you watching this video if you're not excited for the draft? 10 being like, you're like me, like, let's freaking go. The draft is very, very close. I'm curious what you guys think down below. Give me your scale from 1 to 10 in the comment section right now. Okay, before we go ahead and keep going again, make sure you guys are subscribed to our main Chat Sports channel, because that is the one-stop shop for all the latest draft news and, of course, draft coverage on the night of the draft, right? We had over 1 million people watch our draft coverage last year as we went, wall-to-wall, wire-to-wire in not only the first round, but all the way through rounds 6 and 7. And, of course, I jump on there during their live show on Thursday night and do hits on, obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles. And so if you guys want to go ahead and be subscribed to that channel with over 240,000 subscribers, the link will be down below me right now, as well as just searching Chat Sports above me. Get subbed now. That way you're notified and ready to rock on draft night. We have a great show planned to keep you guys pick by pick with full analysis from all the guys here at Chat Sports. Let's get into our final scenario here, because we talked about the likely scenario, right? Staying put at 12 and taking the best player available. The trade-up scenario, which, again, a very real possibility. The final scenario here in the first round for Philadelphia is the trade-back scenario, right? So this has also been reported that Philadelphia has explored trading back. And trading back is the idea of, we don't like anybody at 12. We like the value of going back and picking up additional picks, maybe another second-round draft pick this year, and still getting a player of need, because we talk about Philadelphia still having a ton of needs overall, right? So let's assume that these players are gone. Again, the trade back scenario. So they're sitting at 12. Patrick Surtain is gone. I think it goes Dallas at 10. Jalen WADDLE somehow is gone. Maybe the Giants at number 11, or someone trades above them. No Devontae Smith, no J.C. Horn, no Jamar Chase, right? Those would be considered, in my opinion, the top 5 draft prospects for Philadelphia. We don't include Micah Parsons here because the Eagles already signed Eric Wilson, so I would assume they're not going to spend a high draft pick on another linebacker, right? So Philadelphia could turn back in the draft, look for somebody who wants to move up for an offensive lineman, or maybe Trey Lance if he falls in the draft, move back to their teen pick up additional round draft picks, and still be able to get a very good player. So these are the 4 teams, to me, make the most sense in terms of trading up. We've heard rumors about New England wanting to come up from 15 to go ahead and take possibly a wide receiver or even someone like a quarterback in Mac Jones. Washington at 19 is a similar scenario. Chicago at 20, and of course the Jets at 23 just have a ton of ammo to go ahead and make this move. All of these teams are likely trade back scenario teams with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, trading back to me is my least favorite scenario here because I want to stay at 12 and get a really good player or trade up, as we talked about, but there would still be a lot of opportunities for an offensive lineman or a cornerback like a Caleb Farley. But the more specific position that makes the most sense if you were to trade down is something like defensive end. And I think all the defensive end players are going to go probably 15 and back. And so you could pick up a guy like Kwity Paye if you went back to number 15 with the New England Patriots. And Azeez Ojulari out of UGA, considered a very good pass rusher. Or Jalen Phillips might be the best pass rusher in the draft out of Miami. There's also other cornerbacks. We mentioned Farley, Greg Newsome out of Northwestern. There are plenty of options here if Philadelphia wants to go ahead and move back in the draft. Kadarius Toney has been rumored to be moving up into the teens of the first round. So trading back remains a likely scenario, and the benefit of it is if your player is not there at 12, you go back, you get an additional second-round draft pick, and then you can use the second-round draft capital to take 2 players, because you have 2 second-round draft picks, instead of 1 overall. What do you guys want to do, right? Let me just finish on this. Would you rather stay put at number 12 and take the best player available, or is it trade up or trade down? Like, the option is for you. I gave you the 3 scenarios, the 3 most likely scenarios, and what would have to happen for that to go ahead and happen. And now that you know, what would you rather do? Stay put, trade up, or trade down? Type S down below for stay, type U down below for trade up, and type D down below for trading back down. All right, Eagle fans, all the time we have for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Plenty more coverage upcoming this week, so make sure, again, you guys are subscribed. And, of course, we're going to do a mailbag video probably on Friday, so use the hashtag Eagles to be in our next mailbag. You just go ahead down in the comment section, use the hashtag Eagles, ask a question, and more likely than not, I will pull it and answer it in an upcoming mailbag. Ultimately, we have for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.